how do you feel about the matchups, the advantages, disadvantages there, coming off an 8-4 season, and would love to get your take on that as well.
Well, it's kind of an unusual matchup here because I mean, let's establish first that Florida is clearly a talented team. Okay, they are an SEC level team. Early in the season they had it looked like they were potentially a real competitor, and then the bottom fell out. All right, but there's still SEC athletes on that roster. Okay, let's be real about that. UCF, on the other hand, Gus Malzahn is still in the process of putting his stamp on the roster. I think the early signing day was a really good indication of that, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But this is still a roster that's in transition from the Josh Heupel air raid system to Gus Malzahn's more traditional spread system, and that's true on both sides of the ball. But in terms of who's going to be out there for UCF, they should have a full complement out there. And you mentioned UCF having an 8-4 season. Florida comes in at 6-6. I think that this has been a fantastic coaching job by Gus Malzahn getting this team to 8-4, because think back to the Louisville game when 5-6 top level guys went down with injuries, including Dillon Gabriel, who was the starting quarterback, of course. And he went down with a broken collarbone, and he's never, and that was the last time we saw him on the field as a UCF Knight. And now he's announced he's going to transfer to UCLA. And so Malzahn throws in a true freshman quarterback in Mikey Keene out of Chandler, Arizona, who manages to push this team to an 8-4 record in a bowl game. I mean, when you really sit back for a second and you think about, where UCF was after that opening night win against Boise State. Remember, they came back from that big deficit. It was actually tied for the biggest deficit in school, biggest deficit in school history in a single game. They came back and won 36-31. And then all that's happened since to get to this point with a chance to go 9-4 and a chance to beat Florida, even though you're a 6.5 point underdog. It's a remarkable coaching job by Gus. It's an absolutely remarkable coaching job. And, the American has been very strong this year, I think, at the very top. The bottom of the conference really, was kind of rough, but, this was a tough coaching job, and he was able to pull it together. And it's a real credit to him. And it's a credit to the players who, have seen this transition through. It has not been flashy as it has been in the previous 4 years. It couldn't be, based on, what UCF was able to do offensively. But, the defense stepped it up, and, we got to give a lot of credit to Mikey Keene, because in the last 5 games, 10 touchdowns to 1 interception. That's, for a true freshman, that's pretty solid down the stretch.
If you can bite the bullet and play a younger quarterback, or you're pressed into that situation, and then he shows that long-term potential and development, then, hey, it sets you up even better for down the road. So that's exciting to see. Dillon Gabriel, before we move on to more of the matchup, you mentioned him. He had a prolific career, of course, at UCF. He makes a decision to transfer to UCLA. But this is Mikey Keene's team. We don't see much of a competition going into 22, correct?
Well, actually, there might be a little bit more of a competition, because the highlight of the early signing class was Thomas Castellanos, a quarterback out of Ware County, Georgia, which in southeastern Georgia, who Gus had his eye on for a long time. Prolific dual threat passer, who it's interesting. Like mere minutes after Dillon Gabriel posted on social media that he was hopping into the transfer portal. He had announced where he was going. Thomas Castellanos goes on his social media, and he says basically, "Don't worry, UCF fans, I'm on my way." And I love that kind of confidence and ownership from a guy who, from your quarterback, your quarterback of the future, supposedly. I mean, I kind of dig that. It's easy to say, oh, a little bit of teenage immaturity, kind of like, hey, I'm coming, guys. I'm here to say, here I come to save the day. But I'm like, I kind of like that out of a quarterback. You want that kind of swag. You want that little bit of like, I'm coming. Don't worry, we're going to be all right. So, heading into 2022, I think Gus is in a pretty good spot because you have Keene. To what extent does he develop over the course of the spring? Right, we're gonna have a spring season coming. We have data on what he needs to work on. How much does he work on it? Right. And, does he work and does he get to a point where he's ready to, I think a lot of fans are, hoping for almost like a Mackenzie Milton type freshman to sophomore transition, because Mackenzie made a big leap from his freshman year in 2016 under Scott Frost in Frost's first year to 2017 when UCF went undefeated. I don't know if that's realistic. That's an awfully big ask. But does that happen? Or does Thomas Castellanos come in and just blow the doors off the place, and the coaching staff looks around there and like, we got to start this kid. We have to start him. He's beating everybody out. So that's a nice problem to have when you got a couple of young guys back there. And in 2022, you're going to have a sophomore and a freshman, and they're going to be battling it out to see who gets the baton. So I'm excited to see how that plays out. And the other thing that's good about bowl games too, Mark, is you get that extra practice time. So what's Mikey Keene got up his sleeve in these last few weeks heading into this bowl game to sort of to prepare for this next challenge of his?